You ever move into what looks like the American dream? White picket fences, perfectly trimmed hedges, kids on bikes, and then realize you just stepped into a police state run by one woman who thinks she's the queen of suburbia. Yeah. Grab your popcorn because this one is pure justice porn wrapped in HOA hypocrisy. I'm talking about Karen Hargrove, the self-appointed dictator of Willow Creek Estates, and the quiet accountant who finally made her empire crumble like a cheap lawn gnome. Picture this. Willow Creek Estates, the air thick with the smell of fresh-cut grass and impending drama. Tess Ridley, 33, wheels her beat-up suitcase up the cracked driveway of her brand-new 3-bedroom colonial. She just escaped a toxic house back in Haven Ridge, mom's smirk, stepdad's flying plates, the whole nightmare. She thought this gated community would be her fresh start. Peace. A place where rules actually protected people. The front door of number 47 swings open before she even sets the suitcase down. Out waddles Karen Hargrove in all her glory, obese mid-50s, squeezed into a bright pink blazer 2 sizes too small, fake pearls straining against her neck, clipboard in one meaty hand like it's the 10 Commandments. Her face is a masterpiece of resting Karen face. Lips pursed so tight they could crack walnuts. Eyes narrowed like she's smelling something illegal. New resident. Karen's voice is syrupy sweet with a razor blade underneath. Welcome to Willow Creek Estates. I'm Karen Hargrove, president of the HOA. We have standards here. That moving truck left tire marks on the curb. That's a $250 fine. And your grass, sweetheart, it's half an inch too long already. Another $100. Welcome packet is on your porch. Read it. Tess just nods, the same way she used to nod when her stepdad's voice got loud. She's done flinching. She places the house key on the railing, click, and walks away. But inside, that old ledger habit kicks in. She pulls out the small black notebook she's kept since she was 16. First entry. Day 1, Karen Hargrove, $350 in bogus fines. Tire marks? Grass length? Documenting everything. You guys, the next few weeks were pure HOA hell on earth. Karen's enforcement team, her 2 besties who basically lived in her pocket, slapped violation notices on Tessa's door like it was a game. Mailbox flag 1 degree off, $75. Holiday lights still up in February, $200. One time Tess left her trash can out 20 minutes past pickup and Karen showed up in person, megaphone in hand, announcing to the entire cul-de-sac. Some people think they're above the rules that protect our property values. Neighbors whispered. Most just paid their fines and kept their heads down. Because Karen didn't just fine you, she made your life miserable. She'd accidentally CC the whole neighborhood on emails calling you that new troublemaker who doesn't care about community standards. She'd drive by at 6 a.m. Goes checking for compliance. Tess paid the fines. Every single one went into the ledger. Photos. Screenshots of the ridiculous emails. She wasn't fighting back yet. Because Tess Ridley didn't survive years of flying plates and silent treatment by screaming. She survived by keeping receipts. Then came the first real crack in Karen's perfect little kingdom. Tess, being an accountant by trade, got curious about the monthly HOA due statements. $450 a month per house for landscaping, pool maintenance, common area repairs. Seemed steep for a neighborhood of 87 homes. She filed a polite request for the financials, standard resident right under state law. Karen's reply? A 2-page email calling it harassment and threatening legal action if Tess didn't drop it. But Tess didn't drop it. Hurts. And that's when the first shell company popped up, Creekside Maintenance LLC. Payments from the HOA account, hundreds of thousands over the last 2 years for premium landscaping services. Except the address was a UPS box 20 miles away. The owner, Karen's brother-in-law. Same looping signature on every invoice. Same IP address submitting the bills. Tess smiled for the first time in weeks. Gotcha, she whispered to her laptop screen while the neighborhood kids played outside like nothing was wrong. You guys, this was only the beginning. Karen had no idea the quiet woman she'd been bullying for months was about to turn her little power trip into the biggest scandal Willow Creek Estates had ever seen. And the best part, Tess wasn't going to yell. She wasn't going to cry. Karen loved so much against her. Stick around. Karen is about to learn what happens when you pick on the wrong accountant. The tension in Willow Creek Estates was thicker than Karen's foundation makeup. Every time Tess stepped outside to get the mail, she could feel the ice. Karen's golf cart, bright pink of course, would cruise by slowly, Karen staring like Tess had personally murdered the neighborhood's property values. But Tess kept her head down and her notebook full. She started attending the monthly HOA meetings, sitting in the back row like a ghost. Karen would stand at the podium in her gaudy blazers, preaching about protecting our investment, while casually approving six-figure contracts to her relatives' companies. Creekside Maintenance just saved us 40% this quarter. Karen would boom, and the room would clap like trained seals. Tess documented every word, every vote, round number. One night after a particularly nasty public shaming, Karen had announced Tess's latest $500 fine for unauthorized flower bed edging in front of 50 neighbors. Tess sat at her kitchen table with a glass of cheap wine and opened the HOA bylaws. Page 73. Escalation procedures. Legalese that nobody ever read. Perfect. She spent 3 weeks drafting a proposal she titled Vendor Integrity and Financial Transparency Amendment. Sounds boring, right? That was the point. She submitted it anonymously through the HOA portal. The amendment would require every vendor over $10,000 to go through a 3-tier verification, physical address check, EIN cross-reference against IRS records, and IP/signature analysis. Any red flags would trigger an automatic 14-day review period. If the board tabled the issue without action, the entire file package would auto-send to every homeowner and the State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. Boom. It's hidden in corporate speak. Karen lost her mind when the proposal hit the agenda. At the next meeting, she was practically frothing. This is clearly the work of one disgruntled resident who refuses to follow simple rules. She pointed a sausage finger straight at Tess in the back row. Some people just want to cause trouble. Tess didn't flinch. Calm smile and raised her hand. Actually, Madam President, I support the amendment. It protects all of us. The room went dead silent, clicking as she clenched her jaw. That night, Tess added another entry to the ledger. Karen publicly singled me out again. 47 neighbors now have my back on the new bylaw. But Karen wasn't done. Bright orange lien notice taped to her front door. $12,400 in accumulated violations and legal fees. Karen had fast-tracked a foreclosure threat. The note at the bottom was pure Karen. Pay or we will protect the community from your continued disregard. Tess took a photo, added it to the folder, and whispered to the empty room, "Keep digging your own grave, Karen." Meanwhile, the amendment was up for vote in 14 days. Karen tried everything: emergency meetings, whispered threats to other board members, even a community survey that somehow only counted votes from her inner circle. But Tess had already started quietly talking to a few neighbors who were sick of the fines. The evidence was mounting, and then came the night everything changed. Tess was reviewing the latest bank statements when she saw it, a $487,000 payment to Summit Logistics LLC for emergency drainage repair. No work order. No bids. Same UPS box. The owner, Karen's cousin. Tess leaned back in her chair, the glow of the laptop lighting her determined face. One more week, Karen. The neighborhood looked peaceful from the outside. Kids laughing, sprinklers hissing, American flags waving, but underneath, a quiet war was raging. And the tyrant who thought she owned the whole street was about to find out that the quiet new neighbor had built the perfect trap using nothing but patience, spreadsheets, and the very rules Karen worshipped. You won't believe what happens next. The 14-day countdown had begun the moment the amendment passed by a razor-thin margin, thanks to a handful of fed-up neighbors who finally grew spines. Karen stormed out of that meeting like a hurricane in heels, screaming about activists destroying our community. But the bylaw was now law, and the clock was ticking on every single questionable vendor payment she'd ever approved. Tess spent those 2 weeks doing what she did best, staying invisible while building the bomb. She requested every single invoice from the last 3 years. Karen stonewalled, of course, sent back a nasty email calling it harassment and threatening a lawsuit. Tess simply forwarded it to the new transparency clause she helped write. Meanwhile, the harassment ramped up to cartoon levels. Karen's golf cart became a daily drive-by. Fines appeared for things that didn't exist. Excessive political signage when Tess had one small welcome to the neighborhood sign. One morning, Tess woke up to find her entire lawn spray painted with orange X's and a note, non-compliant. $2,500 fine. Pay by Friday or lien proceedings be. Tess took pictures in the golden sunrise light, added them to the ever-growing folder, and laughed that dark little laugh you get when you know the villain is signing her own arrest warrant. You guys, the best part was watching Karen slowly unravel in public. At the emergency HOA meeting she called to address the malicious amendment, Karen showed up in a red power suit that made her look like a boiled lobster. She slammed her fist on the podium. This is an attack on me, personally. I have sacrificed years for this community. Tess stood up calmly. Amendment only requires transparency. If everything is above board, you have nothing to fear. The room murmured. Karen's face turned the color of her blazer. She pointed straight at Tess. This is all because you can't follow simple rules. Some people just don't belong here. That was the moment the dark humor hit peak levels. Karen, champion of property values, was publicly melting down while the very system she weaponized against Tess was about to turn on her. Behind the scenes, Tess had already sent the compiled package to a forensic accountant friend. 12 shell companies, dollars in inflated contracts. Kickbacks funneled straight into Karen's family accounts. The 17-minute gap in the HOA financial system logs where someone with admin access deleted evidence, caught by the new watermarking protocol Tess had quietly suggested. Day 13. In the community pool parking lot after dark. The security camera caught every second. Karen's face inches from Tess's, spit flying. You think you're smart? Drop this, or I'll make sure the bank forecloses on your little starter home so fast your head spins. Tess didn't raise her voice. And said, 14 days, Karen. The system doesn't care how loud you scream. That night, Tess taped a single sheet of paper to her bedroom wall with a big black number, 1. The final day of the countdown. She slept like a baby. Day 14 arrived like Judgment Day in a suburban paradise. At exactly 12:01 a.m., the automated protocol Tess had embedded in a new bylaw fired. Every piece of evidence, vendor spreadsheets, bank transfers, signed kickback emails, security footage of Karen's threats, the full ledger of every petty fine she'd ever issued, compiled itself into an encrypted package and rocketed out to every single homeowner in Willow Creek Estates, the state attorney general's office, and the local news tip line. By 7 a.m., exploding. By 8 a.m., a crime scene, 3 news vans, 2 sheriff's deputies, and a crowd of furious neighbors holding printed copies of the evidence. Karen came out in her bathrobe, hair in curlers, face the color of spoiled milk. This is a witch hunt, she shrieked into a reporter's microphone. That woman has been harassing me since she moved in, but the evidence was ironclad. The money, the deleted logs. Even Karen's own cousin turned on her in a desperate plea deal. Tess watched it all from her front porch with a cup of coffee, the morning sun warm on her face. No yelling. Just the quiet satisfaction of watching a bully's castle burn using the very rules the bully wrote. The HOA board called an emergency meeting for that afternoon. Karen tried to show up in full power suit armor, but the new interim president, a retired judge who'd had enough, barred her from the room. Tess was invited to present. She didn't need to say much. When the vote came to remove Karen as president and pursue full restitution, It was unanimous. Karen was escorted out by security while neighbors cheered. One woman actually threw a $250 fine notice at her feet. The dark humor of the moment was chef's kiss. Karen, who had spent years fining people for breathing wrong, was now being walked off her own turf like the criminal she was. That evening, Tess sat in her quiet living room, the small black ledger open on the coffee table. She tore out the very first page, the one with the moving day fines, and dropped it in the trash. The past was done. The fallout was glorious. Karen's house went on the market 2 weeks later. Foreclosure proceedings started by the very bank she loved to threaten people with. The neighborhood voted to use the recovered funds to actually fix things instead of padding Karen's family pockets. New playground equipment, real landscaping bids, and a proper independent audit every year. Tess was offered the position of treasurer. She accepted on one condition. The whistleblower protection clause she wrote became permanent. No more bullying. Terror. At the first meeting under the new rules, Tess stood at the podium, the same one Karen used to rule from, and said simply, "I didn't move here to cause trouble. I moved here to live in peace." Turns out the only way to get that peace was to make sure the rules actually applied to everyone, including the president. The applause was real this time. In the background, Karen's social media, yes, she still had one, was a train wreck of conspiracy theories and victim posts. "They came for me because I cared too much," she typed. The comments were merciless on her. Tess never replied. The system had done the talking. Months later, Willow Creek Estates looked exactly the same on the surface. Perfect lawns, smiling neighbors, flags waving. But the air felt lighter. Instead of hiding behind Karen's fear, Tess stood on her porch one crisp evening, watching kids ride bikes without worrying about a pink golf cart swooping in to issue citations. She took a deep breath, the kind that fills your lungs completely. No tension, no bracing for the next explosion. The small black ledger still sat on her shelf, but was closed. The first page was gone. That numbers don't lie and patience always wins. Karen's house sold to a young family who had no idea about the drama. Tess waved at them when they moved in. No fines. Just a friendly welcome to the neighborhood. And somewhere across town, in a much smaller rental, Karen Hargrove sat alone, staring at the mountain of legal bills and the court date for embezzlement charges. The woman who once ruled with an iron fist and a color-coded violation chart had finally learned the hardest lesson of all. The rules she loved so much could be used by anyone, including the quiet ones who kept receipts. So here's the thing, you guys. There's someone who thinks they're above the rules. But there's also someone like Tess, patient, meticulous, done being pushed around. The system only works when good people make it work. And sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, legal, and absolutely devastating. Thanks for listening to this wild ride. Drop a comment where you're watching from and tell me what's the craziest HOA story you've lived through. If you want more justice porn like this, smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay petty, stay smart, and never let a Karen win.